Discover the incredible truth, how 300 years of royal inbreeding led to life-changing histories. The rain pattered steadily against the window of the old library like 1,000 tiny fingers urging Sarah to explore. As a waitress at the local diner, she was used to the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation, but here, everything was hushed and calm. Pulling the damp hair from her face, she spotted an old, dusty book wedged between towering shelves. Its leather cover beckoned her, promising secrets and stories long forgotten. With a sense of anticipation, she opened the book to reveal tales of families intertwined by blood and fortune. The words danced before her eyes, and she found herself swallowed by the narrative of royal inbreeding, starkly reflecting the social divides in her cozy, Midwestern town. As she read about the consequences of privilege and isolation, Sarah's heart began to swell with emotion. This was more than a book, it was a mirror reflecting her own life and that of her resilient daughter, Mia. Every day was a juggling act for Sarah. Single motherhood had its challenges, but they found warmth in their little home filled with laughter and the aroma of homemade meals. Mia, her bright teenager, held dreams bigger than their small town. Sarah yearned to provide for her, to help her escape the struggles that so often threatened to define them. The fierce determination in Mia's eyes reminded Sarah that they were more than just survivors, they were fighters. As the rain drummed outside, Sarah shared the book's revelations over coffee with her neighbors during shifts at the diner. Discussions sparked fervently, peeling back layers of prejudice and economic disparity hidden beneath the surface of their picturesque town. They spoke of dreams, hardships, and the stubbornness of community bonds. It stirred something deep within Sarah's chest, a stirring of hope mingled with uncertainty, but as fate would have it, a wealthy newcomer stepped through their town's doors with plans that threatened to shatter their delicate balance. He flaunted his privilege, proposing an extravagant development that seemed to ignore the community's shared history. Deep-seated tensions bubbled to the surface, igniting arguments about worth and character. Sarah's heart raced as she watched friends turn against one another, her sense of duty swelling within her to fight for her home and the legacies that had shaped them all. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah dove deeper into this battle, an unexpected twist revealed itself. The newcomer, with his air of entitlement, was tied to her in ways she never anticipated. Connections that hovered in the shadows suddenly illuminated her past, leaving Sarah torn. The stakes were high, and whispers swept through the community. Tension crackled in the air as each voice mingled with doubt and desire, vulnerability and valor. The future of their cherished town hinged on a pivotal meeting, and with emotions running wild, Sarah felt the clock ticking down. She clenched her fists in determination, reflecting on all they had endured. As the community gathered, every face held stories, fears, and hopes tied together by the fabric of shared struggle. Sarah took a deep breath, ready to speak her truth. And just as she opened her mouth, an unexpected revelation about the developer emerged, threatening to shatter everything they thought they knew and plunging them deeper into uncertainty. Would this revelation be their salvation or doom? Just as Sarah prepared to voice her concerns, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The newcomer, Mr. Caldwell, stood at the front of the room, a mix of arrogance and charm radiating from him. He had a way with words, weaving them like a tapestry, and yet, underneath it all, a sense of unease prickled the back of Sarah's neck. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth like molten gold, "I want to bring progress to our wonderful town. Imagine a beautiful new hotel, bustling shops, and attractions that will not only bring in visitors but rejuvenate our economy." He smiled, and a handful of heads nodded in reluctant agreement. The murmurs in the room began and intensified, doubts blooming like wildflowers. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she thought of all the memories embedded in each crevice of their town. Homecomings at the old park, childhood bike rides down Main Street, all of it was interwoven into the fabric of who they were. How could they let a single vision, ripe with greed, rip it all apart? What you call progress, she finally managed to interject, her voice shaky but determined, might actually tear us apart. This is our history, our home. What do you do with your buildings when they collapse? Do they rebuild history? Mr. Caldwell raised an eyebrow, but his gaze flitted back to the supportive faces. And what history are we preserving? He countered. The history of hardship. The history of division. The room crackled with tension. Sarah steeled herself against him, her thoughts swirling with everything she had read, all the connections she had made in her own life and those echoes hinting at family secrets. Suddenly, the door creaked open and an elderly woman, Ms. Ruth, a longtime resident, shuffled in. I have something to say, she announced, her voice trembling as she clutched her cane like a lifeline. I've lived here longer than any of you. Our past is our treasure. This town holds the heart of its people, not mere buildings. Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude. Ms. Ruth's words poured out like warm honey, soothing the tension. She could see others shifting in their seats, leaning closer, their faces brightening with a shared understanding. Then, in a voice soft yet stirring, Ms. Ruth continued, we need to remember who we are, where we come from. Our strength lies in our community and our love for one another. But the moment of solidarity was quickly overshadowed when Mr. Caldwell glared, a slight smirk on his lips. Sentimentality isn't enough to make a town thrive, Ms. Ruth, he retorted, clearly dismissive. I'm afraid you must adapt or be left behind. The room erupted in chatter, voices clashing like thunder, anger and fear mixing in the air. Sarah's stomach twisted as she watched the crowd fracture, friends turning to foes. She had to do something, but what would that be? How would she muster the strength to lead them into the next chapter? Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She fished it out to see a text from Mia. It read, I overheard something at school about Caldwell. You need to find out. It's important. Her heart skipped a beat. Had there been more to this man than she had realized? The stakes had just jumped. Sarah felt a spark of determination flicker, she needed to uncover Caldwell's connection to her own history before it was too late. The showdown wasn't just about saving their town, it was about unraveling threads that reached deeper into her own life. What secrets lingered beneath the surface, waiting to be unveiled? Sarah glanced around, taking in the fraught faces. Today was a reckoning, and she wouldn't back down. But was she ready for the truths that awaited? The battle was far from over. The clamor in the room bubbled like a boiling pot, each voice fighting for attention. Sarah felt her pulse race, but she couldn't waver. With Ms. Ruth's rallying cries still echoing in her mind, she took a deep breath and stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly at her sides. What if we don't have to choose between progress and our past? What if we can innovate while still honoring our roots? Mr. Caldwell's eyes narrowed, a predator sensing vulnerability. Innovation isn't a suggestion, Sarah. It's a necessity. The world moves on, and we must, too. Your town, as it stands, is a relic. It's time to let go. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah met the gaze of her neighbors, uncertainty sprawled across their faces, a mix of fear and confusion. It was just as Mia had hinted, Caldwell's charm was a facade. Something sinister lay beneath, and she needed to act fast. People come here not just for the scenery, Sarah pressed on, letting the passion rise in her voice. They come for the stories, the memories. Our history isn't a burden, it's our backbone. Caldwell shrugged, dismissing her. Stories don't put food on the table or rooftops over heads. As I said, adapt or fade away. But just as she felt herself beginning to falter, Ms. Ruth stepped forward again. Youth is a gift, dear. But don't dismiss wisdom so easily. Progress doesn't have to mean destruction. A flicker of hope ignited within Sarah. Exactly. What if we found ways to blend new ideas with our traditions? Let us build that hotel, but with local artisans involved, designs that tell our stories. Silence enveloped the room, an unexpected pause where minds could draw breath. The familiar weight of memories hung thick in the air, still visible in the lines of Ms. Ruth's face and the glimmers in older residents' eyes. This was their moment. If Sarah could just keep the momentum going, progress doesn't need to erase what we hold dear. She exclaimed, her heart racing. We can create something beautiful that respects our roots. We can be pioneers, not just players in a game. Her words hung, suspended in the air. A few heads nodded, hesitant but hopeful. Yet even so, chaos wasn't done with its grip. Caldwell remained unmoved, a smirk twisting his lips. Pioneers, Sarah? You mean dreamers? Unfortunately, dreams won't build the structures I envision. As anger pulsed through her, Sarah forced herself to regain composure. Maybe being a dreamer is exactly what this town needs. She shot back, gripping the podium. We're not just a map on a tourist brochure. We're people, linked by our shared stories. And those stories matter. Slowly, people began to mumble in agreement, sparks of resolve igniting amid the fear. Yet, just as encouraged chatter bubbled up, Mr. Caldwell abruptly turned. You'll regret this, he hissed, a sharp edge in his voice that sliced through the optimism. As he stalked out, the crowd watched, hushed and uncertain. What does that mean? Whispered a voice from somewhere in the back. Sarah felt the room shift under her feet. Who was this man? Why was his disdain for the town so palpable? More questions raced through her mind. She had to find answers. Sarah, wait. Mia called out, rushing toward her as the meeting continued to hum in anxious whispers. You have to see this. The urgency in Mia's tone sent a shiver through her. As fear mingled with excitement, Sarah knew that she was on the verge of something big. She had faced down Caldwell, but there was still a truth to uncover, something that could change everything. Together, they slipped out of the crowded room, urgency taking over. And just as the door swung behind them, the air felt electric, the promise of revelations hanging tantalizingly in the air. What would they discover? Sarah had no idea, but deep down, she knew it could alter not just her life, but the fate of their town as well. Would they be ready for what lay ahead? Mia led Sarah through the dimly lit hallways of the community center, her footsteps echoing in a way that felt almost conspiratorial. They moved quickly, their hearts racing not just from adrenaline, but from the thrumming excitement of what was to come. Sarah's mind spun with the weight of Caldwell's threat, but she pushed those thoughts aside. She needed to focus, to discover what Mia had to show her. They reached a door marked with peeling paint, a private sign hanging crookedly. Mia paused, glancing both ways before shoving the door open. Inside was a storeroom cluttered with dusty boxes and old files, an archival treasure waiting to be explored. The dusty sunlight trickled through a small window, spotlighting the motes of dust dancing in the air. Look! Mia exclaimed, pulling a box closer. These are the town archives. I've been digging through them lately. There's so much history here, stuff that's not in the town's brochures or school textbooks. What kind of history? Sarah asked, her pulse quickening with intrigue. Stories about our ancestors, about why they settled here, about the old trades they had, Mia exclaimed, rifling through the box. And some documents that mention weird agreements. Like strange land deals and forgotten laws. Together, they began to sort through musty files and yellowed documents. With every piece of paper, history unfolded before them, names of forefathers, maps of land, tales of sacrifice. These stories breathed life into their town's past, intricately woven with struggles and triumphs. Each revealed connection sparked excitement. Wait, what is this? Mia held up a brittle parchment page, the letters faded but the seal still intact. It's a land grant from over 150 years ago. It talks about preserving the town's landmarks as part of a heritage agreement. Sarah leaned closer, her heart fluttering. This could be our leverage. If Caldwell plans to destroy what makes us unique, we can use this. Mia's eyes sparkled with delight. Exactly. But there's more, a lot more. She unfolded another document, nearly tearing it. The ink was more legible, and Sarah could see swirling signatures. This mentioned some kind of hidden covenant. It talks about protecting not just the buildings, but the community itself. It's like an invisible lifeline forged by our ancestors. What does that even mean? Sarah's brow furrowed, trying to grasp the implications. It could mean we hold power, Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. If there is some kind of legal framework that insists on preserving our heritage, then Caldwell can't just bulldoze it away. The enormity of their findings crashed down on them, and Sarah felt a surge of hope. Could they be on the brink of changing everything for their town, based solely on what had been hidden away for decades? But with that hope came a tingling anxiety at the back of her mind, a feeling that Caldwell wouldn't back down, even when faced with history. They continued to sift through the box. Sarah's fingers trembled, a mix of excitement and fear. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to step into a much larger battle, one that could change not just their town, but their very futures. Just then, a loud bang echoed from the hallway. Sarah's heart dropped. What was that? Mia's eyes widened. We need to hide. Now. They hurriedly shoved the documents back into the box, a sense of urgency driving them. They ducked behind a pile of dusty furniture, holding their breath as footsteps approached. Suddenly, the storeroom door flung open, and a shadow loomed over the threshold. Where are you? Caldwell's voice cut through the stillness, venom lacing his tone. Sarah could feel her heart hammering against her ribcage. Would this be it? Would they be caught unraveling a truth that could save their town? And what would happen if they were? As they crouched in silence, the air heavy with unspoken fears and hopes, Sarah realized they had to act, and fast. But would their discovery be enough to stand against Caldwell's intense ambition? Or was there even more at stake than they had imagined? The footsteps halted, and Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. They lay there, frozen in that dust-filled air, the world outside slipping into darkness. The muffled sound of Caldwell's voice seeped in, thick with menace. You can't hide from me, he growled, scanning the dim room. I know you're here. Every muscle in Sarah's body tensed, the fear coiling like a snake within her. She wanted to peek out, to get a glimpse at the man they were fighting against, but her body wouldn't obey. She could feel Mia's heartbeat echoing in their cramped hiding spot, a shared rhythm of anxiety mixed with determination. What do we do? Mia whispered urgently, her eyes wide. Sarah raised her finger to her lips, signaling silence. They couldn't give themselves away now, not when they were so close to uncovering more truth. Moments stretched painfully as Caldwell prowled around the room, his presence a looming threat. Suddenly, the scrape of furniture being moved reached their ears. I know you found something, girls, he taunted, his voice dark and low. I want to let you ruin my plans. Ruin his plans. The phrase carved into Sarah's mind like a weight. Was it enough to simply hide? Or did they need to confront him, to stand firm on what they had uncovered? Just when Sarah thought the moment of discovery had been lost, the small beam of sunlight caught a glimpse of an intricate seal on the parchment Mia had found earlier. It stood out like a guiding star amidst their anxiety. The covenant wasn't just a piece of history, it was a promise, a legacy bestowed upon them. It was more than paperwork, it was their town's voice, silenced for far too long. Listen, Caldwell continued, shifting closer. You think those dusty papers can stop me? This town's future is mine to shape. You're nothing but kids playing in a world you don't understand. Sarah's heart raced at his words. His arrogance boiled her blood. We're not just kids, she thought fiercely, finally emboldened. Mia nudged her. We need to make a run for it. The door's right there. Wait, Sarah whispered back, something flaring in her gut. What if we confront him? What if we show him the history? Mia's eyes widened, uncertainty flickering across her face. He could go just as far as lying about it. He.s. ruthless. A sudden crash echoed as Caldwell's impatience boiled over, knocking over some old crates. Dust swirled in the air, thickening with tension. This was their moment. They couldn't let fear win. Okay, Sarah nodded, a new resolve sparking within her. But we do it together. Taking a deep breath, they slowly made their way out from behind the furniture. They emerged into the dim light, standing shoulder to shoulder, hearts thundering in courage and desperation. Caldwell turned at their movement, surprise crossing his face before it twisted into anger. So, you want to play little heroes? He spat. Yes, we do. Sarah cried, holding her ground. We have proof, Caldwell. You can't just take our town. Our ancestors fought for this. His gaze hardened, weighing their words, searching for cracks. Proof. Ha. Those papers are ancient. They don't mean anything today. Maybe they do. Mia retorted, her voice strong, surprising even herself. This covenant speaks for us about who we are as a community. Anger bubbled in Caldwell's expression, but before he could respond, Sarah gestured toward Mia, encouraging her to step forward. What you've done for this town is for personal gain. You don't care about preserving our history. But we do. Mia's voice rang out, full of passion. For a fleeting moment, the room was silent, the air charged with the palpable tension between fear and resolve. Yet, there was still a question looming over them. Would their courage and the weight of history be enough to stand up against a man like Caldwell? What would happen next, faced with someone who thrived on control and power? Determined to engage, they prepared for his response, knowing they stood not just for themselves, but for every person their ancestors had fought for. As the silence shattered, Caldwell's face twisted into a cruel smile. You two have no idea what you're up against. What he divulged next would shake their resolve to the core and reveal that the fight for their town was just beginning. You two have no idea what you're up against. Caldwell sneered, his voice slicing through the tension like a knife. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. What did he mean? Her eyes darted to Mia, whose face mirrored her own mix of fear and defiance. This was no longer just about dusty papers. This was about the very future of their town. Caldwell stepped closer, his shadow stretching across them like a dark omen. You think you're some heroes, but history isn't what you think it is. Those papers. They're nothing but a relic. My family has been making decisions for this town long before your ancestors set foot here. Your family. Sarah shot back, disbelief coursing through her. What does that even mean? You think you're entitled just because of where you come from? A glimmer of something dark passed over Caldwell's eyes, a flash of anger mixed with something else, fear. You're too naive to realize how deep the roots of power go. This isn't just about a covenant. It's about lineage. Your ancestors lost. Mine prevailed. The weight of his words sank in, chilling Sarah to her core. The history they had uncovered was more tangled than she had ever imagined. Lineage? She echoed, feeling her legs tremble beneath her. Royal blood runs thick here, Caldwell continued, a sardonic smile creeping along his lips. Inbreeding, alliances, betrayals, our family ties have shaped this town across generations. Power is held onto, not simply claimed. Mia brushed her hair behind her ear, clutching the parchment tightly. That doesn't mean you can control everything. People deserve to know the truth. They need to what? Caldwell interrupted, his voice rising in fury. Uproot centuries of tradition just because two girls think they can play with history. Think again. This town is built on silence and subservience. Anger boiled up in Sarah. We're not going to stay quiet anymore. People deserve a chance, Caldwell. A chance to decide their own fate. The room felt smaller now, air thickening with the weight of their words and the impending conflict. Caldwell's expression turned dangerous, a predator narrowing in on its prey. You don't know what you're getting into, he hissed. What are you going to do? Silence us? Mia's voice was steady, but Sarah saw the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. They were outnumbered in this battle of wills, but they had something Caldwell didn't: passion for change, a connection to the people and their histories. As if sensing the shift in the atmosphere, Caldwell's composure cracked. I've played this game long enough, girls. You think you're uniquely brave? I've faced worse than 2 stubborn kids. You'd better remember this moment. Because next time, I might not be as forgiving. And with that, he turned on his heel, striding toward the door. You have until tomorrow. After that, who knows what will happen. But I promise you, history can be rewritten. The clang of the door echoed, leaving them in a thick silence. The air hung heavy with uncertainty, but deep down, Sarah felt a fire ignite within her. They had survived this moment, but they were not out of the woods yet. What are we going to do? Mia asked, her voice a whisper, barely masking the fear. We tell everyone. We fight back, Sarah declared fiercely. We can't let him intimidate us, and we can't keep hiding. This town deserves to know the truth. Mia nodded, their energy returning with a mix of fear and hope. Yet, as they exchanged glances, a new question loomed. Did they have the strength, the community support, to truly make a change? Their resolve would soon be tested in unimaginable ways. But one thing was certain: when the sun rose again, they would have to step into the light and face whatever came their way. Would their town stand with them, or would it fracture further under Caldwell's grip? As they stepped into a new day, where actions would matter most, the fight for freedom loomed ever larger on the horizon. What sacrifices would they have to bear to protect the legacy they fought for? The morning light spilled through the dusty windows, casting long shadows that danced across the empty floor of the town hall. Sarah could feel the weight of impending confrontation settling in her chest, an anxious knot tightening with each passing second. She and Mia stood side by side, the ancient parchment resting like a guardian in Mia's hands. What if they don't believe us? Mia whispered, her voice trembling slightly. They have to, Sarah replied, her tone firm. If we want to break their hold, we need to be honest about what we found. We must get the word out. Before they could strategize further, the sound of muffled footsteps approached the hall. Sarah's heart raced as she glanced toward the door. The locals were starting to gather, drawn by the unsettling tale that was beginning to unfold in their small town. Each face that appeared held a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. As the townspeople settled in their seats, Sarah cleared her throat and stepped forward, brimming with determination. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice wavering initially but gaining strength as she continued. Mia and I have something incredibly important to share about our town's history. Murmurs erupted in the crowd, heads turning as anxious glances exchanged between neighbors. Trust was a bond forged over years, and she could see the skepticism brewing like a storm cloud above them. We discovered documents, ancient papers outlining our town's true origins. And what they reveal is shocking. Mia stepped in beside her, holding up the parchment for all to see. This isn't just about dusty records. It's about how Caldwell's family has manipulated our past, keeping us under a veil of silence for generations. We deserve a say and the truth. A ripple ran through the crowd, some nodding while others grimaced. A wiry man near the front shook his head in disbelief. And you think this changes anything? Caldwell's family has always been in charge. What's your proof? Sarah took in a deep breath, determination surging through her veins. The proof is right here. We have the records. Before she could continue, a harsh voice cut her off. Stop this madness now. It was Caldwell, storming in with an entourage of supporters, the very embodiment of authority. The tense atmosphere flickered like a flame under his glare, shifting into fear. Get out of here, Caldwell, Sarah shot back, finding her strength. This is between the people and their right to know. Caldwell smirked, crossing his arms. These little games of yours could cost you dearly. History has been written, girls. You can't change what's already been set in stone. An elderly woman in the back spoke up, her voice sharpened by years of buried frustration. But what if we want to learn the whole truth? What if we refuse to just sit back? Sarah felt the tide shifting, eyes burning with expectation. That's exactly right. We have to stand together. This is our town. We have the power to demand change. Suddenly, a murmured agreement rose among the crowd, but Sarah knew it wasn't enough yet. The fear in some faces still ran deep. They need more than just passion, they need courage to confront the history they been afraid to question. With a final glance at Mia, Sarah stepped back into the fray, her heart battling between hope and uncertainty. Will you stand with us? She raised her hands, gauging the energy in the room, ready to make one last desperate appeal before their next move, but from behind Caldwell, a new figure emerged. A familiar one. Sarah's heart dropped as she saw someone she thought would be on their side stepping out to support Caldwell, a betrayal they had not seen coming. Don't let them fill your minds with lies. The newcomer shouted, sending another wave of unease rocketing through the crowd. What would happen next? Would the support they had fought so hard for waver? Or could they rely on their community to resist the powerful darkness that was Caldwell? As questions hung in the air like a thick fog, the stage was set for the ultimate clash, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that history was about to change again, forever. The tension in the air thickened as whispers rippled through the crowd. Faces once full of curiosity now wore expressions of disbelief and betrayal. Sarah's heart raced as she struggled to comprehend the sudden turn of events. How could someone they admired, someone they trusted, now stand with Caldwell against them? The figure moved closer, and Sarah's fear morphed into anger. It was Lucy, the town librarian, a woman Sarah had grown to see as a mentor. Lucy, why are you doing this? Sarah shouted, her voice cracking. You know the truth. We have the records. Lucy's face was a mask of conflict, her eyes darting between Sarah and Caldwell. The truth? Or your version of it? She called back, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. Caldwell's family has kept this town safe for generations. What you're proposing could tear us apart. Mia stepped forward, holding the parchment tightly, her knuckles white with tension. Safe or silent? We've been living under a shadow. This is about discovering our past so we can build a better future. Jenny, another familiar face, stood up from the back. Safety. Is that what we're calling it? Living in fear of what Caldwell might do if we question him. No more. Her words ignited a spark in the group. Sarah could see the shift in energy. A few more people began to rise from their seats, their expressions resolute. A whispered agreement passed among them like an electric current. Yet, lingering skepticism still clouded the gathering. They needed something more. Caldwell, sensing the growing unrest, stepped forward, his voice a cold steel. You think you know better? You think you'll rewrite history with a few dusty papers? He turned back to the crowd, the embodiment of authority ready to defend his legacy. People have lost their lives for the stability we've fought to maintain. You'll put everything at risk. By keeping us in the dark. Someone shouted, emboldened by the moment. Sarah seized the chance, her voice rising above the fray. Come on, everyone. We all deserve to know the truth of who we are. Our past should not dictate our future. As she spoke, something began to shift. She could almost feel the walls of fear that surrounded them start to crack. Lucy hesitated, glancing at Caldwell like a portal opening that threatened to swallow her whole. I don't want to see this town destroyed, but the conflict was palpable on her face. Could she finally accept the truth? Please, Sarah urged, taking a step closer, her heart whispering for connection. Help us. Help this town see what it can become if we stand together. The murmurs swelled, vibrant energy coalescing into something substantial. A few voices spoke out in agreement, while others exchanged glances, weighing their own choices. Support was beginning to sprout amongst the shaking roots of resistance. Caldwell clenched his jaw, frustration visible in every muscle, and gave Sarah a warning glare. "You'll regret this, girls. Mark my words." He turned to retreat, leaving a final wave of fear in his wake, but his confidence faltered. "Together, we can break the silence," Sarah shouted, emboldened by the presence of those standing with her. The crowd echoed their encouragement, waves of agreement rippling with renewed hope, but then, just as the energy began to peak, a sudden crash rang out from the back. A figure burst through the entryway, wild-eyed and breathless, the town's historian, Old Man Travis, clutching a faded old book. "Stop!" he shouted, urgency saturating his voice. "You need to see this." The crowd turned as one towards him, curiosity mingling with dread. What revelation could he possibly hold that would change everything again? The air crackled with new tension, the next chapter of their story poised to unravel. Would this new revelation solidify the fight against the darkness of Caldwell's family, or would it create a rift larger than they had ever anticipated? Only time would tell as they braced themselves for what was to come. Travis stumbled forward, the old book almost slipping from his trembling hands. The crowd's buzzing whispers quieted to tense silence as he struggled to catch his breath, the weight of their gazes pressing down on him. Was he truly ready to reveal something that might shatter everything they knew? "Everyone, listen," he panted, finally sounding steady. "I've spent decades digging through our past, piecing together fragments of our history." He slowly opened the book, its pages yellowed and frayed. The smell of old leather filled the air, bringing with it a sense of forgotten secrets. "What I found, it's not just about Caldwell's family. It's about all of us." Time held its breath as he turned the pages carefully. The crowd leaned in. Sarah could feel the anticipation rising, along with a hint of dread. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Travis pointed to a faded map sketched on one page, the lines worn almost to invisibility. Patterns of land divided, familial ties illustrated amongst them. "This is the territory we live on now. These families, some of them go back hundreds of years, intermarriages that forged alliances and cultivated power. But those alliances," he paused, a deep breath hitching in his throat. "They came at a price. Look here." He turned to a page filled with densely written text, each word brittle yet heavy with meaning. "The records show that generations ago, our ancestors began to marry within their own bloodlines, believing it would secure strength and unity against outside threats." His eyes darted to Caldwell, who stood just a few feet away, tension stretching his features like a bowstring ready to snap. But what they didn't know was that this also led to weakened bloodlines. Illnesses, madness, even secrets that needed to be buried deep. A murmur coursed through the crowd, disbelief mixing with horror. Sarah felt her heart pound. Was this true? How could something so dark be part of their legacy? Mia's voice cut through. "Why didn't anyone know this before? Why have you kept it hidden?" "It wasn't just me," Travis replied, his voice shaking yet resolute. "Those in power wanted stability. They feared how it would change us, what it would mean if the truth of our history got out. But if we don't face it, we could still repeat those mistakes." His gaze, piercing and fierce, scanned the crowd. "We can't turn a blind eye to who we are any longer." Sarah looked around as the words settled in. Fear and anger mixed with something else, an igniting potential. She felt a trembling hope. This was their chance to redefine themselves. Before anyone could respond, Caldwell erupted. "You're trying to create chaos. To dismantle everything we've built. You don't understand the consequences." His voice thundered, a distant echo of authority cracking under the pressure of this new truth. "Maybe we need to dismantle it," Jenny declared, her heart racing. "Maybe we need to start fresh, to heal. Together." Sarah added, emboldened. "It's our choice, our future." And there it was, a shared resolve kindling in the group. They were no longer passive spectators. Their eyes shone with determination, voices rising to meet Caldwell's fury. Travis stepped back, a satisfied smile breaking free, but it was tinged with worry. He knew the darkness they were up against. If you want to change things, you'll have to face the families that hold power. Caldwell's family is just the start, there are others who will fight to keep the truth buried. As the tension surged, the crowd began to chant words of unity, coalescing around Sarah, Mia, and Jenny. Their fears wrapped in a new audacity. But all the while, Sarah sensed an underlying danger, a shadow creeping silently among them. What would it take to take their fight into the depths of history? And as Caldwell's glare cut through her like a knife, she felt it, the urgency building again, pressing forth the next question: will they find allies in other families, or will the quest for truth be their doom? In the days that followed, the air in their town was electric, pulsating with change. Sarah and Mia had become faces of the fight, champions of a truth that had been buried for too long. The town buzzed with conversation, shifting alliances forming, and neighbors sharing stories that echoed through generations. The historian Travis had become their ally, the beacon of unity, guiding them toward unearthing more hidden histories. As the sun rose each day, it brought renewed courage, a promise of what lay ahead. At town hall meetings, more townspeople began showing up, compelled by the whispers of the past. They listened with open hearts as Sarah shared the documents, laying bare the realities of their shared history and the effects of Caldwell's family's actions. Each tale she wove connected them, reinforcing their bond. History isn't just about the past, Sarah would say, her voice ringing with conviction. It's about how we define ourselves moving forward. We owe it to our ancestors to learn from their mistakes. The crowd hung on her every word, eyes glinting with understanding and hope. But with newfound momentum came the shadows of fear. Caldwell was still lurking, his influence stretching into the town like a dark fog. "I won't let you destroy what I've built," he had hissed during a confrontation. The fire in Sarah's heart only grew with each threat, every word intensifying her determination. Then came the day of the community vote, pivotal and charged. It was time to choose, preserve the old, or embrace the new, woven through community spirit and truth. The town square was packed, anticipation thick in the air. Sarah could feel the palpable energy of shared stories and hope, it mingled with her fear. "Today isn't just about buildings," she began, stepping to the forefront of the crowd. "It's about who we are together. It's about breaking free from the chains of silence." She glanced warmly at Mia, who stood beside her, her strength shining brightly. "When we share our stories, we cultivate our future." Voices from the back shouted in support, each call feeding into the flames of determination. "Yes. We're with you. We deserve to thrive." But just as momentum built, there he was. Mr. Caldwell, with his imposing presence, interrupted with a scowl painted across his face. "You think you can stop progress with nothing but dreams? Those dusty old papers hold no weight. You're all foolish to believe these adolescent fantasies." His ridicule sliced through the excited atmosphere, doubt creeping back into some eyes. Sarah felt a cold wave wash over her, but she pushed it aside. "We're not just talking about papers, Caldwell," she cried, her voice rising against the tide of despair. "We are speaking of a legacy that has been hidden. Our community has the right to preserve our history and build something real, something that lasts." The crowd began to respond, an undercurrent of confidence swirling. "We deserve better. We deserve honesty." Caldwell continued his assault. "You'll regret this when the town crumbles under the weight of meaningless nostalgia." But his words, once heavy and laden with threat, began to soften in the growing light of the spirit that surrounded Sarah. "Enough!" someone called out, stepping forward. It was Lucy, the town librarian, tears shining in her eyes. "We've been living under your reign for too long. I didn't want to believe it, but Sarah's right. We need to protect each other. We need to embrace who we are without fear." The crowd erupted, a chorus of unity sweeping through them, alienating Caldwell, drowning out his last whispers of condemnation. After a tense vote, the results were no surprise. Overwhelming support for Sarah and Mia's vision of a blended future emerged from the ballot boxes. Cheers erupted, filling the air like fireworks. The fate of their town was no longer solely in the hands of the privileged, it lay with the people. As the gathering dwindled, Sarah stood with Mia, staring at the old documents that had once seemed like relics but now shone like a beacon of hope. They had done it. Together, they had opened the doors of their community and embraced the tangled threads of their history. With each passing day, the town blossomed anew. They created art installations that told their stories, unveiled whispers of the past woven into the fabric of new buildings. This is just the beginning, Mia smiled, her eyes sparkling with promise. Sarah took a deep breath, the weight of their shared triumph lifting. They had faced darkness, uncovered the truth, and emerged alive, ready to shape their future, bound in love, resilience, and community spirit. As the last rays of the sun dipped behind the hills, illuminating the town in a golden glow, Sarah held her daughter's hand tightly. They had confronted the legacies of old, faced fear and uncertainty, and forged a new path into the shimmering horizon. Their history was not lost, it was alive, and they were more than ever ready to write the next chapter of their journey together. Remember, your story matters. To stay connected and continue this journey of inspiration, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button to fuel the algorithm and keep our community thriving. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to feel the power of transformation. Let us spread hope and build a brighter tomorrow together. Your voice matters, so speak your truth in the comments below.